Yeah, this is Dave from cheapbooks.com playing World of Tanks. This is about crew skills. I've made some changes to the crew skills that I pick, and I'm going to tell you about why I made the changes I did. It's going to mean that what I've said in previous videos is no longer accurate. I don't want to get into too much detail about every crew skill. I'm going to assume that you know what every crew skill does, and you're going to know what all of these the equipment does, and what all the consumables do. Now here's my basic philosophies. Number one, you want to use crew skills that make you invisible on the field. Being invisible on the field means that people can't shoot at you. It increases your lifespan. Number two, you want skills that do more damage, of which there's one or two, the gunner skills. You want skills that do more damage. Number three, you want to be able to spot. That's especially if you're a spotter. You want the sixth sense. Obviously you want things like the BIA. Now the issue that came up is that I use coated optics on every single tank because it makes you spot the enemy faster and it makes you more invisible. I used to use camo on every tank. However, I know how to hide now in bushes and things like that, and I know not to do stupid things like go out in the middle of the open. I know how to stay near cover. So I don't have the need for camo nets, but they are still valuable because when you fire your gun, you still get a benefit from camo nets. So it might be good for tank destroyers. So the issue is that this tank has a 400 view range, and with the coated optics and the vents and things like that, I don't need the recon and the situational awareness anymore. So I'm taking them off my tanks because they're just unnecessary, and I'm replacing them with other crew skills. Now obviously, in terms of priority, hiding is important, so therefore you're going to want to use camo on everything. That's my playing style. I know there's people who say, oh, you got to use repairs. You know what? I never get disabled on a field where I say, I wish I had repairs right now as a crew skill. Never happens. Or it happens like once every 300, 500 games. So I don't worry about it. I use the small and large repair kits, so this is an exception. But I use it on all my tanks. I don't need repairs as my crew skills. To me, it's a very low priority. I don't get stuck on the field needing repairs. So I don't worry about it. Camo, absolutely. Sixth Sense, I get Sixth Sense as soon as I can. I use Mentor as soon as I can so I can advance my crew training for the rest of my crew as quickly as possible. Camo is the next priority. I'm going to show you some of the others here. Okay, so recon, I'm going to start measuring my view range, and if it's below like 380 meters, I'm going to start removing the recon and situational awareness from my crew members, although it will have the disadvantage that these other tanks, the lower tiers which use those crew members, will no longer have that benefit. Firefighting, how often do you catch on fire? Once every 50 games or something like that? It's not that useful. And not only is it not that useful, if you have 4 guys with firefighting, it takes up 4 skills. Or you could get the automatic fire extinguisher, which only takes up 1 slot. So you're comparing 1 slot versus 4. And if you have a 6-man crew, it averages the firefighting. It doesn't add them together. So you would need it on all 6 in order to get the full benefit. And it doesn't put the fire out. The firefighting does not put the fire out. It reduces the damage for per turn for like however many seconds it runs. So firefighting is low priority. But what you can do is, if you love repairs and firefighting, and you have a crew of 4, put 2 firefighting, 2 repairs. If I put repairs on all these guys and I were tracked and I had no repair kits, it would bring it down from like 10 to 12 seconds down to maybe 6 seconds, 6 to 8 seconds to repair the track. Now, Brothers in Arms, I have 100 tanks. I've only got it on like 2 or 3 tanks. And I want to have it on more tanks. But what I'm doing right now is I'm leveling up all of my crew members. I'm playing only the lowest crews. For example, the ones that have only 1 or 2 skills, and I'm leveling them up so that everyone's going to have 4 skills. And when I get to that point, I'm going to put brothers in arms on all of my crews. But I'm not going to do it right now. The jack of all trades, you don't use it every game. Then how often do you become decapacitated because of a crew member? If you lose your driver, if you lose your gunner, well, if you have the health kit, which I carry on almost all of my tanks now, it gives you added protection, plus I can repair my crew. So usually that saves my butt, and I don't need jack of all trades. However, this is, I would say, a medium priority, and I have actually added it on one of my tanks. I don't remember which one, but one of my light tanks now has jack of all trades on it. Eagle Eye, I recommend you use it on one of your tanks. I haven't used it on any of mine yet, but just to play with it and see how it works, because if you can damage somebody's gun and know that his gun is damaged and that he can't fire, that is a huge thing to know. And to also to know the level of when his engine's about to blow. If you're trying to set his engine on fire, that could also be very useful. Situational awareness, I'm taking off of my tanks. If the view range is above 385, 390, I have to do some experimentation. Call for vengeance, I would like to put this on all my light tanks. I think you use it once in a while. For example, if your tank dies and it shows who shot you and then he blows up, that's when call for vengeance is going to come into play. How often does that happen? 1 out of every 15 games when you're in close combat, things like that. So I think it's a low priority. I would like to have signal boosting and relaying on all of my SPGs and light tanks. However, one of the things that happens is a lot of these tanks, like this M41, he doesn't even have a radio guy. So that happens often because the light tanks tend to only have 3 guys on them. But I would like to include that. However, I don't know if any of these guys have a radio guy. It looks like none of them do, except for this guy. You want to look at your signal range. I'm looking at this premium tank. He's got the 700 signal range. This one is 750. This one is 730, 750. And you want to know how far across the map you can see. If 750 is all the way across the map, then you're not going to get any benefit from signal boosting, and you're not going to get any benefit from relaying. So only put it on tanks that have a low signal range. He's got 750, he's got 710. The higher tier tanks have better signal range. This one only has 625. This one only has 550. But he only has 550, but I also think he can't shoot beyond 550 anyway. I don't know. I don't know what his range is. But I know that the British tanks have a shorter range of fire. Maybe this will make it so that you can fire further. I don't know. So these things that extend the signal range are for lower tier tanks. And most of my tanks are tier 8. There are exceptions. Like these tanks over here are really not, they're 6 and 7. Haven't made it to tier 8 yet, but almost every other tank is tier 8, so these are not that useful anymore, unless, of course, you have injuries. When you have injuries, they can help. Now, I'm going to get back to my light tank. So we've got the gunner. Now, I believe that killing, causing damage is high priority, so you want to have Deadeye. Gives you an extra 3%, high priority skill. Designated target, I would say secondary. Every day, I kill a tank that is not spotted, which means that if I had this, you have to know how it works, it would keep him lit for another 2 seconds. So I could use this and get an extra kill every day and have that tank be spotted. So I would say that it's valuable. Unspotted tank means you see a tank, you're shooting at it, he disappears, you take a couple more shots. Once I had to take 5 shots to kill the guy. And it happens sometimes. So it's a valuable skill. I would use it once per day. I would absolutely use it. Maybe if I got it on all of my gunners, might be able to increase to twice per day. It's rare that I have a damaged gun. I repair all that crap anyway. So the armor is not that useful. How often does it happen? maybe once every 50 games your gun stops working because somebody bangs it. So I don't think you should worry about it. Now let's look at the driver. Driver, again, what do you use all the time? If you're a tank destroyer, you're going to use the clutch braking often. You're constantly going to be turning your tank. So for tank destroyers, I would say clutch braking is a high priority. However, I should have to go through my tank destroyers to make sure they all have it. Now, preventative maintenance, there's 3 or 4 ways to prevent fires. One is this skill. The other one is the automatic fire extinguisher. And of course, you have the repair kit will do it too. Then you've got the cyclone filter, which is available on some tech trees. And then you have filled the fuel tanks with CO2. So you've got lots of different options for reducing engine fires. So you could choose this, or you could choose one of the others. This doesn't cost you anything. The others probably have a cost or might be a consumable. And this doesn't make it so engine fires don't happen. It just reduces it. So I would say it's good in Rampage where you catch on fire all the time. Rampage, you want to have repairs and automatic fire extinguishers and the medical kits and things like that, and jack of all trades, because you're constantly going to be getting damaged. And controlled impact is good for Rampage because you ram all the time. But in regular battle, you don't use it very often. So maybe on a tier 10 tank that you use in Rampage, yeah, you want to use those. Regular tanks, no. Maybe in a low tier like a light tank or a medium tank, tier 1, 2, 3, 4, or if you have an E50M, which has a reputation for ramming a lot, you might want controlled impact, and you might even use it often. Or if you like to ram SPGs, I ram SPGs whenever I can. But how often do you ram a tank? You might say all the time until you start doing the missions. And when you do a mission and it says kill a tank by ramming it, and you spend all day trying to ram a tank, you realize you really don't use it that often. Off-road driving, you use all the time. You're constantly driving. It's not going to work on a map like Himmelsdorf because it's paved, but this will give you added speed, and you use it a lot. So I say this is a high-priority skill, and I often choose this skill for my drivers because I know they're going to use it. And then you've got Smooth Ride, improves accuracy when firing on the move. This is for fast tanks. That's why you would use it on a light tank or something like that. But how often do you use it? If you spot all the time, I play games where I never fire my gun as a light tank and I get number 1 EXP because I do spotting. So if you're using a fast tank where you fire the gun, you probably want something like Smooth Ride. Okay, so then, and the same thing with the gunner. He has Snapshot. This is also, I suppose if you're far away and you're shooting at tanks, your turret's going to turn. Or, there's certain maneuvers where your turret's going to turn, but if you're close to somebody, accuracy doesn't really matter that much. Accuracy matters the further away you go. So maybe on a moving tank it might help, and I do the tank destroyer mission. You got to do 2,000 damage to moving tanks. It's difficult to get games where you're shooting at moving tanks. A lot of tanks are stationary when you shoot at them. And there's a lot of times when I sit there and say, I got to wait for this tank to move so I can get the mission completed. So it really is not a high priority skill. Oh, no, wait. Yeah, okay. Because of the moving tank issue. The tank has to be moving for your turret to be moving, the enemy tank. Or you have to be moving. I don't know how many people. I guess there are people that do that. But again, that would be an issue that might be more with fast tanks. This, I would say, is medium priority, and I put it here because it's a light tank. Loader. I'm waiting for the day that I can use Adrenaline Rush. Because I die like 85% of my games, which means 85% of my games, I have less than 10% of my hit points left, which means I'm going to get loading faster. There have been games where I saw the timer I'm at a standstill with another tank, and right as a timer, I was holding the mouse button down. Right as it got to the point where I'm supposed to fire, he kills me. So there are games when it comes into play. How often? I don't think it happens that often. But I do think that I would get Adrenaline Rush benefit maybe every 2 or 3 games. I don't know how many shots, but it definitely will come into play. However, when you have a tank like an M41 Walker Bulldog, they can kill you in like 2 shots. In 1 shot, you're going to have less than 10% of your hit points left. So you got to be really careful with your light tanks. You might actually get a lot of use out of it. I don't know. Intuition, waste of time. I have no intention to ever use it. I would like to use safe stowage one day, but I think that having things like repairs and firefighting are more important, because how often do you get ammo racked? I mean, once out of every 50 games, it's just not that often. And I think I get ammo racked less and less. And also, there are, you can use the equipment to reduce ammo racking, the WOT ammo rack. So maybe in Rampage you get ammo racked more often, I don't know. But it's a medium priority for me. And when I get 4 skills on all of my crew, maybe I'll add it. So I think camo is the most important. If you watch my videos, you know, before you start bitching and say, no, you have to have repairs, you know, I am on the front lines all the time. Being invisible is more important. Number 2, for most of my tanks, I have small and large repair kits. I'm rarely on the battlefield and I need repairs. And I don't know what to do. It rarely happens. I can go hundreds of games before I'm stuck track somewhere and don't have a solution. So I don't need the repair skill. If other people do, I'm going to say you're a noob and that's it. So stop writing to me complaining that I should use repairs. I don't need it. Now, firefighting, how often do you catch on fire? Let's say it's once every 50 games. If you're using the automatic fire extinguisher, then firefighting is a waste, unless you get set on fire twice, which can happen, but doesn't happen that often. However, if you don't use the automatic fire extinguisher, then you probably want firefighting. The reason why I have it on some of my tanks is because I've been removing the automatic fire extinguisher because I don't catch on fire often enough to justify it. However, the automatic fire extinguisher takes up 1 slot, but firefighting can take up 4, 5, or 6 in terms of skills. So in that sense, it's better to use the automatic firefighter. Now, the other issue, you're going to notice that I use the large repair kit, the automatic firefighter, and the large first aid kit. And the reason why is because they give you additional protection, plus 15% from injuries, plus 10% to fire protection, plus 10% to speed of module repairs, which is the same as having like, I don't know, 1 or 2 of these guys over here. So I'm doing that on these tanks because they're usually 1-shots. Once they get hit, they're dead. So I never use 2 repairs. But on something like a heavy tank, I occasionally will use 2 repairs, which is why I use a small repair kit, the large repair kit, and something like the automatic fire extinguisher. Some I have the first aid kit because my crew gets injured more often than I have to deal with the fire. That's why I use the first aid kit. But the issue that I have is I've got 200 automatic fire extinguishers in my armory. If you go to consumables, you can see I've got 169. I've just got so many of them, I got to use them. So that's why I've been equipping my tanks with them. And also for the tier 9s and 10s that I use in Rampage. Okay, so I'm going to go to some of my tanks that have 4 crew skills. Okay, IS-4 will have it. Now, what happened was I had 1 tank that had all 4, but I kind of split the guys and moved them around because you want the commander to have more crew skills. He's just got better stuff. And the gunner, I would say, number 2. I made a mistake because it was heavy tank week and then it was medium tank week. I moved my commanders around. But now this commander only has 3 and the gunner has 4. I really want this commander to have more skills. So at some point I'm going to correct that. I'm going to move them around so that he has more for the commander. And my goal, of course, is to get up to 5. And I'm going to show you how I did it. I'm going to use the German as an example. Now, ignore the Nashorn. I'm going to show you his crew. They were at 99% not too long ago. You know what I did? I swapped the crew is what I did, because it just jumped up way too quickly. Now you'll notice these guys are on their third skill. They came from another tank. They got up to their fourth skill in, like, it took me, I don't know, maybe 2 months or something like that. And just playing each tank once or twice a day. And the reason why is because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 premium tank destroyers on the German text tree. And when they have the triple bonuses and the 5 times bonuses, they're doing the double crew experience this weekend. I play these tanks like crazy. And I got them up to 4 skill, and then I took them, and I believe that I switched them to my heavy tank. He has the tank destroyer crew. And maybe one of the guys went to a light tank. Let's see the light tanks. No. So the heavy tanks got my tank destroyer crew from Germany. And probably the reasons why these are not as high is because the radio operator might not be on every tank destroyer, for example. You can see he does not have a radio operator. So when I play it, it just doesn't level it up. Now he has 6 crew members, so he levels up 6 crew people at a time. You level your crew faster if you have more crew members. If he only had 3 and I was getting 1,000, he would go up 1,000, he would go up 1,000, and he would go up 1,000. But because I have 6, they're going up a cumulative total of 6,000 compared to 3,000. So it's better to level up crew with tanks that have more crew members. So these guys will all fit into these tanks, and I just level them up all day, and it's not just them. I first did it on the Russian tanks. That's how I started doing it. I use these Russian tanks to level my crew up to 4. I also have on the UK tanks, I've got 3. I don't know about mediums. Mediums I've only got 2. Now for heavy tanks on China, I bought the WZ-111 just to level up the crew faster. It actually is a better tank than the other 2, but the reason why is to level up the crew faster. And that's why I have every single premium tank. You'll notice all of these guys. I've had games where I got 1,000 base experience with these tanks. They're absolutely worth it, especially when you get the triple and the 5 times bonus. These guys will level up your crew. Not as quickly as a tier 10, but they will do it. So over here I've got 3, and they're leveling up the crew for 2 tanks. You know, they are doing it. They're doing an excellent job. I'm very happy at the progress with leveling up the crew. Okay, so that's a little bit about the decisions that I've been making lately. As you can see, I still think camouflage, number 1. I am a frontline player. My team is always behind me. I need to stay hidden. Repairs, secondary, firefighting, third. Anything that does damage, high priority. Look at your view range. This guy doesn't need situational awareness. He has it. He doesn't need it. The situational awareness is wasted. He's got the 390 view range plus a coated optics, plus the vents, plus all these percentages. He's beyond the limit. Let's see how these other tanks are doing. He's 400. He doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. He benefits from it, but at his tier, because of the way I deck out everything, he's always going to see better than everybody else, even if it's not at the maximum. So I have to remove situational awareness from that guy. And if the T-54 has it, he doesn't have a radio awareness. He doesn't have a radio guy. But you see he has recon on the commander, so I have to remove that. That's one of the changes I'm going to have to make. Signal range, anything that signal boosting, he's got the signal boosting, I'm probably going to take that off. I'm going to do some testing first, but I'm going to verify that 745, if it can see all the way across the map, I'm probably going to get rid of it. Okay, so that's a little bit about the changes I've made. I'm going to run down real quick what my changes are. That is basically, look at your view range. Don't use recon and situational awareness if you have coated optics and vents and you're above like a 380 view range. It's just going to be a waste. And in terms of any signal boosting, look at your signal range. Don't use it. Those are the two big changes I've made. I have some ideas for some new crew members that I'd like to recommend. One of them, the gunner can kill an ally, and I think it would be a cool perk for the gunner if he holds his fire if there's an ally who would be hit by the shot. It's a perk that I'm going to make a suggestion. I hope they take it. Okay, if you have any questions or comments, please post below. Please, no posts about heavy tanks should use repairs. I mean, people who say that are just noobs who don't understand the game. I use a small repair kit, the large repair kit, and it's rare that I'm stuck on the battlefield in need of repairs. I don't need repairs on any of my tanks. Okay, if you have any questions or comments, please post below.